ISO 14001 and environmental management. And today we have no other person but our humble, amiable, amazing Mr. Inioluwa Aborowa. He is an IT GRC professional, background in environmental biology and expertise in ISO 27001 Information Security Management System, which is the ISMS, and also ISO 14001 Environmental Management System, which is the EMS, and also in governance, risk management, regulatory compliance, and internal audit. He's very well experienced in implementing risk-based management systems, conducting risk assessments, developing compliance framework, and also supporting organization in archiving certificates. Resilience and is driven by continuous improvement. Without further ado, please kindly help me welcome Mr. to the session today. On 15,001. Mr. Pictures, please.
All right. Good morning. I hope I'm audible. Woman, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Good
It's
morning.
nice to have you here today. Yes,
All
loud
right.
and clear.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I believe the session we just had with Mobola has been an interesting one. Saying that the way we dress is the way we are going to be addressed, and quoting from somebody that the way our dressing also is kind of in alignment with our destiny. I actually picked that. All right, so I welcome you all to today's session. We'll be looking at ISO 14001, which is Environmental Management System. I hope you can see my screen, and I hope my screen is visible at your end. I would like to get your feedback, everybody. All right, thank you. So before we proceed, I would like to know, if any of us, can you just assist me? Can you assist us to just define what we call, what you understand by environment? In your own word, in your own understanding, what will you say the environment is? Anybody? Can you just do that in the chat box? Or you can unmute.
Hello, sir.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Marian. I'm from Ghana.
All right, good
Call me
morning.
Vikum from Ghana.
Okay,
So, environment is everything that surrounds us,
okay.
be it natural or artificial.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. That's very correct. The environment is everything around us. Anybody with a different opinion or with different definition? Want to go? Want to try? Anybody? What the environment is to you from your own perspective? What do you believe the environment is? All right, thank you, Kuma. You've already assisted us with the definition of what an environment is, defining it to be everything around us and that enables us to be able to sustain life. That's what the environment is. And when we talk about the environment, it includes the air we breathe, it includes the water, the lands, and the planet included. Also, talking about the animals, everything around us in general, or technically, is what we refer to as the environment. And this morning we are going to be looking at what we call environmental management system. But before we go into that, that's why we need to go through, for those of us that might be new to what environmental management system is, we like to just go take a brief look at what an environment is. So talking about the environment, the component of the environment includes what we call the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, the lithosphere, our biosphere, and also our human and socio-economic environment. So all these things put together is what make up an environment in itself. And when it comes to this environment, it is necessary that we should care about the environment. We should protect the environment because as it is, it's not just a luxury. It is what supports our life. It's what supports the systems that everything around us that makes it possible. Every breath we take and every drop of water we consume and every meal we eat, everything together has one impact on the other on the environment. And for this reason, we need to ensure that we take care of the environment to ensure the availability of that particular resources over time. And for this, we need to ensure that in our environment, everything is protected and we prevent the degradation of the environment in itself. So when we talk about the environment and various things that can interact with the environment, those are one way or the other resulting or causing what we call environmental degradation. What we can see on my screen, you have the likes of air emissions, you have water effluent, you have waste generation, we have water consumption. So all these activities, we refer to them as what we call environmental aspects because they have the ability to actually interact with each with the environment in itself. So I would like to ask, I believe it's earlier this month. Is anybody aware? Thank God Kuma is from Ghana. What happened in Lagos and in Accra in respect to flood? I believe we are all aware of that.
Yes, sir, we are aware.
All right, all
Yes, sir.
right. Thank you. So from the experience and for those of us that it affected or that we have people that were affected by the flood and from the news, from what we could experience, what will we classify that occurrence to be the event? Are we going to classify it as a natural disaster or an anthropogenic result or impact of what we've been doing over the time? Anybody? A natural disaster or what we call a repercussion of what anthropogenic activities?
Okay. Can I go ahead?
Thank you.
Yeah, go
All
ahead,
right,
sir.
thank you. Okay.
Okay. I believe that is an anthropogenic activity because I believe following from the news that I looked at, the government have not been able to do what they're supposed to do. You know, when you don't create drainage, it's human effort, it's human fault. If
All
they've
right.
channeled the water properly, the place would have been flooded. So that's a human error.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. So you are very right. So it's a result of anthropogenic activities, just like you said, the leadership not doing their part, and also you and I also not being responsible enough when it comes to our own quota, our own responsibility towards protecting and making the environment to be sustainable. Now, with that kind of experience, do we think that and do we now believe that there is a necessity for us to actually ensure that our environment is well protected and then we make use of the process resources within the environment in a sustainable way? Do we think there is this necessity for environmental protection? With what we've
Yes, there
experienced in
is.
respect to thank you very much. And that is where the ISO 27000, ISO 14001 comes into place. Because if I begin to ask us now, how do we protect the environment? I believe you will have diverse ideas on how to go about protecting the environment. Now, but to now make and give us an auditable manner or ways of protecting the environment, that's why we have a body like ISO, that is International Organization for Standardization, that has now put together a framework, a guideline in order to assist us, you and I, an organization in itself also, to actually have that step-by-step way on how to ensure that when it comes to addressing the activities or what we call the environmental aspects of our organization, of our activities, is actually being put in place. That is the purpose of the ISO 14001 in itself. So the ISO 14001 is a global environmental management system that provides a structural framework enabling organization of all sizes and sector to systematically manage their environmental responsibility, reduce risk, and also to be able to demonstrate compliance, because as we have and in the world we have today, we have various regulatory requirements in order to ensure that the environment is being handled in a sustainable way. And that is what the standard is all about. That is what the framework is all about, to give us that guideline and that holistic way on how to approach the maintenance and sustainability of our environment. Now, when we protect the environment, when we manage the environment effectively, these are various benefits. We have 8 benefits here. We have more than that, more than this. This is not all inclusive in itself. So we have just this few to let us know that when we manage the environment effectively, these are benefits that we can get from the environment. One, which is protect human health and well-being. And for people that are affected by the flood, they can tell you about the impact the flood cause when it comes to earthwise, when it comes to property-wise, all those things, and also to preserve natural resources for future generation. When we manage the environment effectively, when it comes to the utilization of the processes of the resources made available in the environment, when we utilize it in a sustainable manner, that means the generation to come will be able to have access to these resources. And we believe that you and I can agree that if we begin to take an inventory of the faunas and the the floras of the resources that is available in the environment at the moment, you will notice that a lot of faunas and faunas has gone into extinction. That is what I'm talking about. Plant species and animal species have gone into extinction due to lack of proper environmental management. But that is changing already. And that is one of the reasons why you and I are here to look at what the environmental management system is talking about and how we can actually protect our environment. So over the years, the environmental management system has actually evolved in itself. It has actually evolved. Give me a minute, please. So it has actually evolved over the years from that's 1992 to this 2026, that we have various editions of the environmental management system being revised and being reviewed at various intervals. So at the moment we have the latest version, which is the 2026 version of the framework. The last one was 2015 version that we've been using, but recently, about 3 months ago, there was a release of the new version, which is the 2026 version of the environmental management system. So organizations that are already certified against the 2015 version are still fine for now. They have that grace of about 3 years to actually transition to the 2026 version. But we are going to be looking at it holistically, looking at the general structure of the management system and itself, that is the environmental management system, and also the various aspects that has changed. Now, when it comes to the revision that was done, this recent revision that made us to have the 2026 version of the framework. Now the question is, why was it revised? Because we already have the 2015 version, and the 2015 version was already working effectively, was working perfectly. So can anybody tell me, or do you have idea why do you think that we need to have a revised edition of the previous version that has been in use? Anybody? You want to guess? Anybody? Why do you think it was necessary for the previous version to be revised? That's okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
The reason for the revision is to clarify, different concepts. For instance, when we are talking about, this recent version now, that's 2020's version, edition rather. It has, there have been a lot of ambiguity, ambiguity rather. For instance, when you talk about outcome and result, are you with me? There's been a lot of, confusion and everything. So this 2026 version has spelled it out. Are you with me? It has made a kind of a clarification. When you are talking about outcome now, you'll be talking about when you are talking about outcome, you'll be talking about the strategic you will be talking about the strategic impact. Are you with me? Or the consequences of that is related to the environmental management system. That is more like a roadmap. Are you with me? More like you are planning on how to implement. Are you with me? To implement
All
the
right.
environmental management system. But when you are talking about the results, the result is talking about that is the things that has been done. That is the output, the achievement. Are you with me? Then this 2020 version, the reason it was introduced was that due to evolving nation of the climate change, you are going to be talking about the biodiversity and other environmental concepts like that. Are you with me? Then another reason is to to clarify on some concept. If you look at this 2020 version, there have been a lot of things that have been removed. For instance, this 2015 version, we have a concept like risk, but this 2020 version, we have what we call risk and opportunity. Are you with me? And if you check the terms and definition, there have been a lot of changes. So
All
that's
right.
just the
Thank
little
you.
I can say.
All right, thank you very much. That's very great. Thank you for that holistic and encompassing response. So basically, why we need that revision is because the world has changed drastically. The world changed and it changed very fast. That is why we need to ensure that that is why we need the revision that we have in the 2020. Just like Michael said, there was a lot of ambiguity around the 2015 version. And one of those areas is what we call the climate change requirement. So in 2015, as of 2015, climate change is something you are required to acknowledge. And they said the ambiguity around it is that they said your external issues. But now we have the 2015 version, 2016, 2026 version now that's not explicitly mentioned climate change because the likes of climate change, biodegradations, and resource scarcity, all those things are no longer theoretical risk. They are things that technically now impact operations for organizations. For instance, the flood that happened, a lot of organizations were not able to operate in areas that were affected. People were not able to go to work, and also look at the level of damage to operational equipment that resulted from that flood. So now that's why we have the revised edition of the 2026 version that explicitly now says organizations need to address climate change, resource scarcity, biodegradations, and other requirements when it comes to climate change requirement. And also to align the environmental management system with what we call the SDG, ESG requirement. Because as of 2026 now, you will see that investors are no longer asking you, saying that, oh, are you profitable? They are not just asking you that. They want to know, you as an organization, are you sustainable? Are you responsible to the environment? And also, are you future ready? Now, if you cannot answer this question as a business owner, then what do you think will happen? You lose funding, you lose credibility because you are not in alignment with the ESG requirement. And also because of we have more stricter regulatory requirements. There is evolution within the regulatory space that requires organization to not just claim that when it comes to environmental sustainability, when it comes to environmental management system, they don't want to hear that, they don't want to receive that you just claim that you are sustainable as an organization, you are responsible as an organization. They want you to be able to prove that environmental wise you're actually responsible in itself. And also we have the fourth reason, which is strategic integration, which is becoming imperative because just like from the three reasons that we've discussed earlier: climate change requirements, ESG and sustainability expectations, and regulatory requirements, we can see that environmental management is no longer a supporting function. It's something that is now a strategic requirement because if you don't integrate it into the strategic requirement of the organization, how will you be able to answer the questions of investors around if you are sustainable, if you are responsible, and if you are future ready as an organization? So those are the reasons whereby the revision is needed and it's very, very necessary. But Above all, when it comes to the general structure of the management system, the environmental management system, there has not been change. We still follow the PDA cycle in itself. And the PDA cycles talk about the plan, do, check, and act. And under that, we have various clauses that we'll be considering. We have the context of the organization. As an organization, you have to understand your context, be able to identify what your interested parties, what are the
Yes, sir.
various
Yes,
environmental
sir.
aspects.
Yes, sir.
You can mute your mic, Michael. Various environmental aspects that your organization in itself is engaged in. Then we talk about the leadership. Just like we said, it is no longer what we call a supporting function. It's now a strategic requirement. So leadership is expected to take that commitment when it comes to sustainability of their processes and the management of their environmental aspects as an organization. Talking about planning, so these are areas whereby after you've identified your strategic, you've identified your various environmental aspects and various risks based on your interested parties, your internal issues, and your regulatory requirements, then you have to ensure that you plan these things to actually identify what are the risks that could arise from your various environmental aspects. Also, what are the various opportunities also that you can actually leverage on from those areas also. And also, from there also, talking about planning, you have to also identify what are the objectives you are aiming to achieve based on the environmental aspect of your organization in itself. Then we have the support where you need the necessary resources to actually ensure that you meet the requirements of your management system. Then we have operations that says, now this is where the way I used to say it, this is where the tire meets the road. This is where you now ensure that you put in the procedures and the necessary controls that everything you've planned from clause 4, 5, 6, and 7, this is where you put everything in place in the aspect of procedures, in the aspect of necessary controls to actually manage those processes. Then we have clause 9 that speaks to performance evaluation. You've set an objective, you've set goals as an organization. How are you measuring this objective? Are you measuring these goals to actually ensure that you're actually meeting up with your requirement or with the expectation and the target that you've set as an organization? And under it, we also talk about auditing, whereby you have to check your environmental management system. You've tried to adopt a framework to assist you, to guide you in actually implementing and putting a robust management process in place. You have to audit it to see how aligned are your processes as an organization with the requirement of the standard when it comes to what is visible within your organization. And also talking about the management review, ensuring that management is being carried along and they are being given reports on a regular basis in respect to the environmental performance of the organization. Then we have clause 10, which speaks about improvement. All the lapses that we might have identified under our performance and our internal audit, we ensure that we continue improving on them to ensure that we attain a level of maturity that is needed as an organization. And when it comes to the how the standard work in itself, you have to first identify what are your issues. And how do you do that? By identifying what are your significant aspects. I mean, from your environmental aspect, you conduct your analysis to be able to identify what are those things that you can classify as significant aspect of your processes, because it's not all the activities that goes on within your organization that might be classified as significant aspects. Then you look at from there also, you have to check also, are there regulatory requirements or obligations that you need to meet when it comes to the number, the level of permits or certain requirements when it comes to, for instance, before you can release an effluent discharge into the environment, what should be these requirements of toxicity within the effluent discharge. So all those things, you have to identify all those things also, and also prepare for possible emergency. And after that, from there also, you have to identify what are your target goals from your aspects that you've identified. Okay, are you trying to reduce noise pollution? Are you trying to reduce air emissions and stuff like that. You have to identify that. Then train the necessary people when it comes to their respective area. So that's just the entirety of the management system in itself. Then let's look at the management system one after the other, so we get an overview of what the system is talking about in itself. So Clause 4 speaks to organization and its concepts, saying that you as an organization, you have to understand what it is that you do. You have to understand your various environmental aspects, understand why your interested parties are there, why your when it comes to interested parties, you want to know who are your regulators, who are people that have interest in what it is that you do as an organization in itself. And under that, you have to look at it also. What are the internal characteristics of your organization? What are the external characteristics? And also, what are the environmental conditions, the likes of climate, the likes of air and water quality, and the Land Use Act within the jurisdiction whereby you operate as an organization. So all these things are things you are going to put into consideration when you are considering your contest as an organization. By the time you have a full understanding of your contest as an organization, from there also you identify what can be issues within your organization and when it comes to external issues in itself. Then also, as part of that, you have to identify who are your interested parties, including your employees, suppliers, third parties. You identify all those people as part of the contest of requirements. Then for implementation sake, you also have to draw a boundary, define a boundary. That is what we call scope determination of the environmental management system. That all right, as an organization, when it comes to the scope of our implementation of actually putting controls in place to address our environmental aspect as an organization, what are the scope we are going to look at? Are we looking at the entire organization in itself, or we are looking at a specific department within the organization, or you have to draw that boundary. That is what scope. And when you are drawing your boundary, it's always in alignment with considering what are your internal and external issues to begin with, and what are your interested parties and their requirements. Because just like we said, that in the 2026 version, we have climate change being explicitly mentioned, and the likes of biodegradation being mentioned specifically in those requirements, not like in 2015. So when you are drawing your scope now, you want to ensure that all these things are being put into perspective in itself. And then we have the environmental management system aspect of clause 4 also, that says you have to establish, you have to implement, maintain, and continuously improve your environmental management system, ensuring that there is an interaction from the point of establishment to what we call the point of continuous improvement in itself. So when we talk about what changed in clause 4 for the 2026 version, which I've already mentioned, earlier on in the previous version, that's 2015, we only just acknowledge climate change. But now it is explicitly stated that as an organization, we need to ensure that we put into cognizance the likes of climate change, resource scarcities, and environmental degradation when it comes to consideration of our environmental aspect in itself. So now for organizations that are already certified against the 2015 version, what are those things you need to change? What are those things you need to do to actually be in alignment with the requirement of 2026? Remember, when it comes to the 2022 revision, 2026 revision, it's not an evolution, it's an update. You understand? It's an update of the previous version. So it's not a total disregard of what has been in existence before. We just did what we call an update, and also addresses areas whereby we know that previous years there has been some level of ambiguity around, and it's open to a lot of interpretation. So for that, you have to update your context analysis of your organization, ensure that you explicitly identify and reference what we call climate change, resource availability, and the ecosystem degradation under your context, not just saying it under your external issues alone. Then we have the area whereby you have to also check is you ensure that your interested parties are expanded to the likes of investors and NGOs. I believe if we've not had regulatory bodies on our interested parties, which should not be, but for our NGOs and investors, majority of us might not have that. We need to ensure that what we expand it to cover people like that, and also we link the context to our risk register, ensuring that everything we've identified and we've referenced under the when it comes to climate change, resources availability, and ecosystem degradation, that all those things flows into our clauses whereby we address the risk that are associated with those things that have been mentioned, climate change, resources, and also the opportunities that can arise from it. And also we have the clause 5 that speaks to leadership and commitment. This is where we say that for the 2026 version, it is no longer about supporting function again. It is now a strategic requirement that the management of the organization must be actively involved in the environmental management system of its organization as it is. So for that, certain requirements are expected from the management of the organization. You take accountability for the effectiveness, efficiency, and effectiveness of your environmental management system. You ensure that when it comes to the policies and the objective for your management system, what are your objectives, what are your overall goal in itself as an organization, and also what are the various goals you are aiming to achieve. You have to ensure that those things are set as it is. Then we have you have to ensure that the environmental management system is integrated with your business strategy in itself. So it should not be in silos. It should not be something that is set aside. It should be integrated with your overall strategy as an organization. And you ensure, the management should ensure resource availability when it is needed, communicate the importance of the EMS to everybody within the organization, not just people in a particular department alone. No, everybody communicate that, and also when it be to the external parties also. Then when it comes to the areas whereby commitment is actually needed is in the area of compliance, protection of the environment, and also the continuous improvement of the management system in itself. So it is also the responsibility of the management to ensure that various roles in respect to environmental management system is identified, and those roles are being allocated to respective individual, and not only being allocated alone, the necessary authorities that is needed by those people to act in their function should also be given to them in itself. So when we talk about the changes in the 2020 in 2015 version and the 2026 version is in the area whereby the requirement of leadership is no longer what we call operational alone. It's no longer operational requirement whereby you just need to, back in 2015, the management just need to develop the policies, sign the policies, and also assign roles and the responsibility. No, it is no longer that. So now it says the management must now actively drive the environmental management system of the organization. So 2015 talks about policies and accountability, whereby top management establish the policies, they ensure resources availability, and also they hold what we call operational accountability. They back then they allocate everything that has to do with the environmental management system to the HSC department. No, it's no longer that. So in 2026, it says the EMS is expected to be embedded in the strategic direction and the leadership of the organization. So any decision we need to make when it comes to environmental management system should be made at the board level. And these are the new expectations for the 2026 version, which you can look at into what you have within your organization if every of these areas are actually being covered. One, you have to ensure that what environmental governance explicitly links to corporate strategy, and top management must demonstrate active directions and not just policy approval. You also ensure that environmental consideration must inform what we call business decision, and it introduces environmental governance as a distinct concept within the environmental management system. And then we have the clause 6 of the framework that also speaks to planning. And what does this planning speaks to? Saying that when it comes to achieving our goals, we have to plan on how we are going to ensure that all these things actually becomes achievable at the end of the day. And under that, that's where we also be talking about our risk as an organization, and also the various opportunities that we can identify or that we can allocate to the various environmental aspects or risk that we've identified within the organization. So you have to determine the risk and opportunity that is associated with your environmental aspects. And please, let's remember that environmental aspect, the word environmental aspect simply means element of your organization's activities that can interact with the environment in itself. So you have to look at that, look at legal and regulatory obligations surrounding what you do as an organization, and be able to determine the various potential emergencies. So for organizations, these are various environmental aspects that we can see and their impacts. So one is air emissions. So from air emissions, we have what we call, often results in what we call air pollution, and energy use results in fossil fuel depletion. Packaging results in what we call landfill space. So these are the various environmental aspects you can see from organization processes and their impact in itself. Then we have metal chips, we have transportations, we have water, wastewater, which is effluent discharge. Then we also have what we call storm water. So what do you need to do as an organization to actually understand if a particular environmental aspect of what you do within your organization is actually significant or not? One, you have to understand and identify what are your environmental aspects as an organization. And from there, once you identify the environmental aspects, you have to do the analysis based on what would be the possible severity of impact if of that particular environmental aspect. What is the probability of impact? That is probability of occurrence of that particular issues. And also we have legal issues. We want to also identify their legal obligation, permits, or regulatory requirement that you need to also meet in respect to that. And also you want to also check in respect to your business objective, reputational wise, revenue wise, what would be the impact of those environmental aspects. And from there, you can be able to determine if a particular environmental aspect of your organization is significant or not in itself. And I have a template here, I have an example here to just show to you for an organization. Now, the way I did it is I used the 1 to 5 range to actually for my ranging. So for severity, I have 1 to 5, which 1 signifies low and 5 signifies high. Then we have for probability of impact also, we have 1 to 5. So for legal issues, this is what I did. If there are regulatory permits, you understand, for that particular environmental aspect, so I will give it 5. But if there is what we call just a general requirement and just a general requirement about the environmental aspect, no specific permits that you need to get, so that one will be given 3. And if there is none, that is when we have the range of 1. So from there, you can be able to determine if a particular aspect of my organization prospect, environmental aspect of my organization process is significant or not. So you can see from the severity, and you have those ones that are significant. You have, yes, borderline. What I mean by borderline here is saying that those are areas whereby they don't when it comes to the range of what we are trying to calculate to determine the level of significance, they didn't reach that particular range. But for certain reasons, we have to consider them and give them a second look to see if this particular environmental aspect, is actually significant to us as an organization or not. And then we have the aspect of what we call life cycle, and that is what 2026 also actually address, that as a requirement when it comes to life cycle thinking. We are not only responsible for what is internal alone, that's not only our responsibility any longer. So the requirement of 2026 is now saying that we are responsible for the entire supply value chain when it comes to life cycle thinking. So that means you as an organization, you are already thinking what will be the impact of your processes even before you start doing it. That's why we have concepts, we have materials, we have manufacturing, transport, retail use, then also even to the point of disposal. And those are the things that to 2022 or 2026 also is trying to address, that we don't do what we call, we don't shift impact, or we don't transfer impact. Maybe, for instance, you are trying to address impact of a particular environmental aspect, then you now transfer it upstream. That is maybe to your supplier or to the consumer. No, you ensure that when it comes to life cycle thinking, you are responsible for everything right from inception to the disposal of that particular resources as an organization. So where you cannot control, you're expected to control every stage, but where you cannot control, or where control is maybe difficult, then you have to influence. That's why it's also required for the 2026 version, is requiring that as an organization, you have to ensure that you meet with suppliers and also check for environmental requirements for suppliers in itself. And also, when you are doing that, you have to put into consideration the obligation requirement when it comes to law, when it comes to standards and governance. So you have to put all those things into perspective. Then I've talked about planning. After that, when we've identified our aspect as an organization, we've be able to determine if it is significant or not. Based on that, we have to develop what we call a target objective. What I mean by target objective is objective that is in alignment with our environmental aspects as an organization and is in alignment with the ESG requirement, because those are the things that the 2026 version is actually addressing. So we have to ensure that we set our objective as an organization to meet those things. And this is an example of an objective for an organization. You see, they said the objective is what? Noise minimization, because they've identified that one of the significant aspects of their organizations when it comes to environmental wise is noise. So you've decided to say, okay, we want to minimize noise pollution in itself. Then we have the clause 7 that speaks to competencies and awareness, resources, communications, and documented information. So you have to look within your organization to see when it comes to the level of competencies of people that handles environmental related issues. Do they need to be trained? Do they need to acquire training to improve their skills? Then you identify them and ensure that they get the necessary competence. So determine the necessary competencies, ensure competence, needs for training, and then take actions to acquire competencies. Then aside that, you also ensure that everybody within the organization is aware of your environmental responsibility and your environmental commitment as an organization. So then everybody within the organization must be aware of the environmental policy be aware of significant aspects of their work. And I believe that somebody can still remind me what environmental aspect means when if you hear the word significant aspect. So those are the aspects of their work that can interact with the environment, and also the benefit of improvement of personal performance, and also let them know the implication of non-conforming with the requirement of the environmental management system. So based on level of competencies that are needed, you as an organization, you can draft up a what's it called, a competency program or a training requirement based on the level of skills or competencies that needs to be acquired, and this is an example for you. Aside that, also there is a requirement for communication both internally and externally. So when it is needed, you ensure that there is already a plan in place on what should be communicated, when it should be communicated, by whom it should be communicated, and to whom it should be communicated. So all these things are things that you also need to put in place in respect to environmental requirement. So if there is a need to, maybe on a regular basis, a quarterly basis, you need to communicate with external parties, you need to communicate with external with regulatory body based on maybe permit, or let them know about your significant aspect. Do that, have a plan in place, and communicate that. Then we have the documentation aspect of things. I remember earlier where I was talking about we have stricter regulatory requirements these days that is not only concerned about organization claiming to be environmentally responsible or environmentally conscious alone. It's saying that what they must be able to prove that when it comes to environmental aspect of things, that they are actually in conformance with the requirements. So that's where documentation comes in. So you as an organization, you must be able to document what it is that you do, put it into writing, because it's not enough that you are doing something. You must be able to prove that you are doing something. And how do you do that? Is by documentation. And for that also, as part of you controlling the processes of documentations in your organization, you must ensure that there is a uniformed method or a manner on which documentations are being developed for your organization, a unified font, a unified font size, and also when it comes to how often documents should be updated, and also what should be the naming convention. So all these things are things that are expected that you also control within the organization. So ensure that documentations are being put in place on a regular basis, and approval is also being gotten. Then we have clause 8 that speaks to operation, planning, and control. Just like I said, that everything we've put into plan from clause 4 to clause 7 and the rest is what we now call, this is where it now becomes operational. This is where we put all those things in place in itself to actually meet our goal as an organization, and ensure that when it comes to environmental aspect, everything is being controlled in a manner that meets the standard of maybe regulatory requirements, and also aligned with the framework we are trying to establish. So we implement controls, put procedures in place, and also controls of processes to actually meet the standard requirements when it comes to our environmental aspect. And areas whereby we have also controlling of change. You will agree with me that when it comes to changes, it's whether it's a good change or a bad change, it's disruptive in nature. And also to ensure that when it comes to that, we have some level of control over changes within our organization. We ensure that we plan ahead when it comes to changes in itself. And for our outsourced processes, just like we said earlier on, when it comes to life cycle thinking, you are responsible for the entire supply value chain. So it's not only what is residing within your organization alone. Your supplier also, you are expected also to control when it comes to their environmental impact in itself. And where control is limited, you are expected to influence it one way or the other. And in case of emergency, so this is speaking to you getting ready, having planned ahead to respond to emergencies when it occurs. So no matter how effective our processes might be, we should always be prepared for and be ready for emergency when it is needed. Having that plan in place on how to respond to emergencies at the time that is needed and when it is necessary. So this is an example of a list of emergencies that can happen and that we can prepare for. We have based on, please let's note that this will always be based on your organization, and also it will also be based on the geography location as it is, because just like we talk about in Lagos that there was flood, there were areas that they know that they are not susceptible to flooding. So you have to ensure that all those emergencies and the impact or environmental aspects are being identified based on what it is that you do. That's why we talk about identifying by what we call understanding your own context as an organization in itself. Then we also have the clause 9 that speaks to monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. What it is that in clause 6 we've already identified and determined what is going to be our objective as an organization. Okay, our objective is to reduce noise pollution maybe by 30%. And just like we all know about the world goal by 2030, trying to achieve net zero emission by 2030 or by 2030, yeah. So now the thing, that's a goal. At regular interval, we must be able to measure it to ensure that these goals or this objective are actually being achieved, and also to be able to determine the level of performance of the environmental management system that we have within our organization. So for that, that's where this particular requirement comes in under clause 9, that we're expected to monitor, we're expected to measure, and also evaluate on a regular basis. Then also under 9 also we have the requirement of internal audits. We're looking at the requirement of what it is that we have operating within our organization, within our environment. Is in alignment with the requirements we are trying to adopt. That is ISO 14001 2026 version, for instance. Is in alignment with it? Are we doing what we said we are going to do? So those are the reason why we need the audit in itself. And for that to be done, that is why we also need to meet the requirement of having an audit program in place to let us know how often do we want to audit your processes within your organization, what method of we will be using, and who will be responsible for that. And when it comes to reporting, all those criteria, all those requirements should also be planned ahead, and they should be documented for the purpose of evidence and also knowledge transfer. Then we also have the requirement for the management review, that after everything is being done, at least depending on what it is that you've agreed on and you've documented as an organization, when you want to do your management review, if you are going to be doing your management review annually, then it's expected that you do it at the end of your internal audit. But then if you're going to be doing it maybe 4 times in a year or 2 times in a year, you can fix the time. But what it's just saying that management review is just talking about is there is always that level of feedback to the management on what it is that is going on in respect to the environmental management system processes within the organization in itself, and how well it is that when it comes to your level of performance and conformity with the requirement of the framework you've adopted, and also keeping up with regulatory requirements, how well are you doing? All this feedback needs to be given to the management in itself, and for them also to give their input when it is needed. Then we have clause 10 that speaks to improvement. That as an organization, we what it is that we've done from clause 4, clause 5, clause 6, clause 7, clause 8, clause 9, we ensure that there is a room for improvement, because no matter what, how perfect it is that what we've put in place, there is always a room for improvement. And we can see that in the revision that we have in the 2026 version in itself, the need for that particular improvement, because there was a necessity to clarify the ambiguity, and because of, as a result of the changes that we have in the environment as it is in itself, that is why we see that there is a need for that improvement, and that's why we have the 2026 version. So also for your organization, there will be always need for improvement. Whatever it is that you are doing, you want to see, what are better ways by which we can go about it? Are we measuring our environmental aspect? Are we monitoring it? What are better ways of actually ensuring that we do better at what it is that we do? That is what the clause 10 of the management system is speaking to. And also, when there are non-conformities, maybe after the internal audit, when there are non-conformities that has been identified, we ensure that those non-conformities are being documented, logged in the appropriate quarter where they need to be logged, and from there also the corrections are being put in place to actually address those particular issues that might have been raised when it comes to the management system or the processes that we have within our organization. You see that we are not doing well when it comes to training, or when it comes to awareness, or peradventure we have not even put into cognizance the present requirement that says that our objective must be in alignment with ESG and sustainable goals or requirements. So all those things we have to ensure that once they've been identified, we actually put corrections in place to actually address them. And now for the transition, for people that already have the management system operating in their environment, you already, maybe your organization is already certified to the 2015 version. How do you transition? How do you ensure that what you have at the moment actually becomes aligned with the present requirement of the standard? That is, one, you conduct a gap analysis by identifying what are the gaps in your present processes, what you are operating at the moment. What are the gaps? When we talk about the gaps, that's the space, that's the difference between what you have and what you are expected to comply with. So you identify those gaps. By the time you've identified those gaps, then the next thing is to ensure that what you update one, your context and the risk of your organization in itself. And remember, we talk about your context, things that have changed under the context requirement of the clause 4 as it is now at the moment. Then from there, also you revise your documentations to see the gaps in your documentation. What are the things that is not addressing, and what are the things that are supposed to be in your documentation that has not been addressed. Then after that, you train your personnel, ensuring that they understand the various changes to between the 2015 versions and the present days, the 2026 versions as it is. And once you identify all those things, you've conducted training as needed, then you implement the changes that needed to be implemented. By the time you've done that, you verify, conduct your internal audit, and then you can go for recertification to the 2026 version. So that's basically all about the management system. The time is our constraints, and we have to abide, stick with the time in itself. So that's a rough overview of the ISO 14001 2015 and 2026 version, showing you, been able to show you what are the requirements in itself, and what are the various changes that has already occurred between the two version as it is. And with that, we come to the end of the session today. So I would like to know if there's any question, any area you need clarity on, you can ask that before I hand over to the moderator.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Inioluwa. It was an amazing session with you on today's ISO 10001. And kindly help us appreciate our trainer for this amazing session today. Please pardon me for the background noise. It's been a bit loud here today. And I would like to make some few announcements before we go on the break. First of all, for the ISO, for everyone that is complaining about the ISO assessment, some people were able to do the assessment yesterday. So I advise that we all retry to do your assessment, and the link is being updated. So please make sure we do all the assessments, and including the ISO also. And for this coming week, by Monday, I'm sure the assessments for today's class will be out. And please make sure that we all have a LinkedIn account, because that is our assignment on PEP. You'll be getting the message again on the group. And last but not the least, the registration fee closes by the end of this month. So please, if you have not, or you're yet to pay for your registration fee, please make sure that you do that so that the class can continue to move smoothly and splendidly. So without wasting more of your time, we'll be resuming back 12 o'clock on the dot. So please, get something to eat, something light to eat, take a